I was in shock as the blood dripped down my forehead. My car had just flipped over on the rain-slicked highway, and I could feel glass embedded in my skin. Through the haze of pain, I heard my phone buzz. I reached for it, hoping it was emergency services. Instead, it was Megan, my girlfriend of almost a year. The message read, "Having lunch with Jacob. Just call an Uber." I stared at those words, my heart sinking faster than my blood pressure. Before I tell you how my world collapsed that rainy afternoon, drop a comment where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to see how karma finally caught up with her. My name is Gary, 29 years old, and a software engineer at a tech company in Seattle. I have always been the reliable guy, the one who shows up early, works hard, and dreams of a stable future. I lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment, but I had managed to save a decent amount of money over the years. I always pictured myself with a family someday in a nice house, with a yard, maybe even a dog. Normal dreams, I guess. I met Megan at a tech conference 9 months ago. She worked in marketing, vibrant and charismatic, in a way that made the room light up when she entered. She had this laugh that could make anyone smile, and these expressive green eyes that seemed to sparkle when she talked about things she was passionate about. Our connection was instant. We exchanged numbers, and within a week we were on our first date at a small Italian restaurant downtown. The conversation flowed effortlessly. She told me about her childhood in Portland, her marketing degree, and her ambitions to start her own agency someday. I shared my passion for coding and my dream of eventually creating my own software company. Those first few months were like something out of a movie. We explored Seattle together, tried new restaurants every weekend, and spent rainy Sundays curled up watching movies and talking about everything and nothing. After 3 months, I introduced her to my parents during their visit from Chicago. They loved her immediately, especially my mom, who kept texting me afterward about how perfect Megan seemed for me. We had started talking about moving in together. Nothing concrete yet, but the idea was there, floating between us like a promise of what was to come. I had even started looking at rings, just browsing at first, imagining a future where I could call Megan my wife. Then Jacob entered the picture. Megan mentioned him casually one day over dinner. An old college friend, she said. He just moved to Seattle for a job in investment banking. I did not think much of it at the time. People have friends, and I was not the jealous type. I even encouraged her to meet up with him, help him get settled in the city. But then the pattern started. Canceled dinner plans because Jacob needed help finding an apartment. A weekend trip to Portland postponed because Jacob had tickets to a concert and invited Megan along. Late-night text conversations that made her smile in that special way I thought was reserved for me. "He is just a friend, Gary," she would say whenever I cautiously brought it up. Do not be that guy. I hate jealous men. So I backed off. I trusted her. Even when she started working late more often. Even when her client meetings seemed to always run over schedule. Even when her social media started featuring more pictures with Jacob than with me. The first time I met Jacob was at a company event Megan had invited me to. He was everything I was not: tall, conventionally handsome, in that catalog model way, wearing a watch that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. He had an easy confidence about him, the kind that comes from never having to worry about money a day in your life. The way he looked at Megan made my stomach twist, and the way she laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, leaned in when he spoke. It was familiar, because that was how she used to be with me. "You are being paranoid," my friend Frank told me when I confided in him. "If you keep acting insecure, you will push her away for real." So I swallowed my doubts. I worked harder at being the boyfriend she wanted. I planned more dates, bought more thoughtful gifts, tried to be more spontaneous despite my naturally structured personality. Our 9-month anniversary was approaching, and I had made a decision that, looking back now, seems almost comically naive. I was going to propose. I had saved for months, and finally purchased a diamond ring that cost nearly 2 months of my salary. I made reservations at Canlis, one of the most exclusive restaurants in Seattle, weeks in advance. Everything was set for what I believed would be the most important night of my life. The morning of our anniversary started like any other day. I woke up early, went for a run, and spent some time finalizing my proposal speech. Megan and I did not live together yet, but she had stayed over the night before. She kissed me goodbye before heading to work, promising to meet me at the restaurant at 7. "I cannot wait to see what you have planned," she said, with that smile that still made my heart skip. Around noon, my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice sounded strained as she told me she had fallen down the stairs and was being taken to Harborview Medical Center. The doctors suspected a broken hip. "It is probably nothing serious," she insisted, "but your father is out of town and I could use the company." The restaurant reservation, the ring burning a hole in my pocket, my carefully planned speech. None of it mattered anymore. My mother needed me. I called Megan immediately. "Of course you have to go," she said, sounding genuinely concerned. "We can celebrate another time. Do you want me to come with you?" "No, you stay and rest. I will probably be there all evening anyway. Rain check for tomorrow." "Absolutely. Give your mom my love." "Drive safe, babe." I grabbed my keys and headed out the small velvet box tucked into my jacket pocket, more out of habit than intention. The weather had turned nasty with a heavy downpour reducing visibility on the highway. I tried calling Megan a few times during breaks in traffic, but the calls went straight to voicemail. I figured she was in meetings or had her phone on silent. About halfway to the hospital, my phone pinged with a notification. One of our mutual friends had posted an Instagram story. Normally I would have ignored it, but a glimpse of familiar red hair caught my attention. I pulled over to the shoulder and opened the app. There, in a perfectly filtered image, were Megan and Jacob sitting at a table adorned with candles and expensive wine glasses, raising a toast to the camera. The location tag showed Canlis, my Canlis reservation. The caption read, "Celebrating with these two lovebirds." My hands started shaking. This could not be happening. There had to be an explanation. Maybe they just happened to be there. Maybe Megan was telling Jacob about me, about us. Maybe. I dialed her number again. Straight to voicemail. I sent a text. "Are you at Canlis right now?" No response. I pulled back onto the highway, my mind racing faster than my car. The rain was coming down in sheets now, making it hard to see more than a few car lengths ahead. I could not focus. Images of Megan and Jacob together laughing, touching, sharing the evening I had planned for us kept flashing through my mind. I did not see the truck until it was too late. It had jackknifed across 2 lanes, and by the time my headlights illuminated its massive side, I had only seconds to react. I swerved hard, avoiding the truck but losing control on the wet pavement. My car spun, hit the median barrier, and then everything was motion and noise and pain. The airbag deployed with a force that felt like being punched in the face. The car rolled once, twice, coming to rest upside down on the shoulder. Glass rained down around me. Something warm and wet was running into my eyes. Blood. I do not know how long I hung there, suspended by my seatbelt, before I fully comprehended what had happened. The pain hit in waves, sharp and throbbing. My right arm was pinned awkwardly, and I could feel glass embedded in my left shoulder and face. With my free hand, I fumbled for my phone, which had somehow survived the crash and was wedged between the seat and the center console. I needed to call 911. As I retrieved it, the screen lit up with a new message. From Megan. "Having lunch with Jacob, just call an Uber." The timestamp showed it had been sent just 2 minutes ago. While I was hanging upside down in my crushed car, bleeding and possibly dying, she was casually suggesting I find my own way home because she was with him. It was in that moment, suspended between life and death, that I felt something inside me break more completely than any bone could. With trembling fingers, I managed to dial 911. "There has been an accident," I told the dispatcher, my voice sounding distant and strange to my own ears. "I am trapped in my car on I-5 northbound." As sirens wailed in the distance, I closed my eyes, still clutching my phone, still seeing those 7 words that had shattered more than just my windshield. I woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor and the antiseptic smell of hospital sheets. My body felt like one massive bruise with sharper pains concentrated in my ribs and head. Trying to move sent a wave of nausea through me, so I remained still, gradually taking in my surroundings. "Gary, honey, can you hear me?" My mother's voice, worried, but strong. I turned my head slightly to see her sitting beside my bed, her leg propped up on a cushioned stool, a hospital bracelet still on her wrist. "Mom." My voice was raspy, my throat dry. "You are okay." She gave a small, sad laugh. "Me, I am fine, just a minor sprain. Nothing compared to what you have been through." A doctor came in shortly after explaining the extent of my injuries. 3 broken ribs, a concussion, a dislocated shoulder, and numerous lacerations requiring over 40 stitches. I had been unconscious for nearly 14 hours. "You are very lucky, Mr. Henderson," the doctor said. "The CT scan shows no internal bleeding, and the concussion, while serious, should not have lasting effects if you follow the recovery protocol." Lucky. The word echoed hollowly as memories of the accident and what preceded it came flooding back. Later that afternoon, a police officer came to take my statement about the accident. Officer Thomas was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He took notes as I described the road conditions, the jackknife truck, my swerve to avoid it. "Were there any distractions that might have affected your driving?" He asked, his pen poised over his notepad. I hesitated, then unlocked my phone, wincing at the spiderweb of cracks across the screen. I showed him Megan's text and explained about seeing her at Canlis with Jacob. Officer Thomas's expression softened slightly. "That is rough, son. Relationship troubles are never easy, especially when they lead to something like this." He finished his notes and stood to leave, then paused. "Has your girlfriend been by to see you yet?" I shook my head, feeling a fresh wave of pain that had nothing to do with my physical injuries. "She has not answered any of our calls either," my mother added, her voice tight with barely contained anger. 24 hours after my accident, Megan still had not visited or even called to check on me. My mother had left multiple voicemails, each more pointed than the last. Frank from work had stopped by bringing a card signed by the whole office and news that our boss had approved medical leave for as long as I needed. But no, Megan. Finally, late in the evening of my second day in the hospital, she called. My mother answered my phone, her face darkening as she listened. "He is resting right now," she said coolly. "Yes, I will tell him you called. No, I do not know when he will be discharged. Perhaps if you had bothered to come by the hospital, you would know these things." She hung up and looked at me apologetically. "I am sorry, Gary. I should not have answered your phone. She says she has been extremely busy with a work crisis, but will try to stop by tomorrow." The next morning, Officer Thomas returned, this time not for official business. He brought real coffee, not the watered-down hospital version, and sat with me while my mother went to physical therapy for her ankle. "I did something yesterday," he admitted after some small talk. "Something not exactly by the book, but I think you should know about it." He explained that after leaving my room the previous day, he had been bothered by my story, particularly by the fact that Megan had not bothered to check on me after such a serious accident. I looked up that restaurant Canlis, called them, and verified that a Megan Taylor and Jacob Winters had been dining there not just the night of your accident, but again for lunch yesterday. So I went there. My heart rate increased, causing the monitor to beep faster. "You went to the restaurant," Officer Thomas nodded. "I was off duty, but I had my badge. I found them at a corner table drinking champagne, looking pretty cozy. I approached their table and introduced myself as the officer handling your accident case. I could picture it clearly, the elegant interior of Canlis Megan, in one of her designer dresses, Jacob looking polished and expensive beside her. I informed Miss Taylor that her boyfriend had been in a life-threatening accident while driving to see his injured mother, that he was currently in intensive care with multiple broken bones and a severe concussion. Thomas took a sip of his coffee. I mentioned that hospital staff noted she had not visited despite being listed as your emergency contact. What did she say? I asked, both dreading and needing to know. At first, she looked shocked, then embarrassed, especially when other diners started looking over. Mr. Winters seemed more annoyed at the interruption than concerned about your condition. He asked if I had a warrant to be disturbing their lunch. Thomas shook his head. I informed them I was simply doing a courtesy notification, as sometimes emergency contacts are not properly informed. A waitress who had been refilling water at a nearby table apparently overheard the conversation and approached. "Excuse me," she had said to Megan. "Were not you here last night with another man? A man who mentioned it was your anniversary." According to Officer Thomas, the restaurant had gone quiet, dozens of eyes now fixed on Megan and Jacob. Without another word, Megan had grabbed her purse and rushed out, Jacob following behind after throwing cash on the table. 3 hours after Officer Thomas left, Megan finally showed up at the hospital. She carried a small bouquet of flowers and wore a concerned expression that did not quite reach her eyes. "Gary, baby, I am so sorry I could not come sooner." She began leaning in as if to kiss me, but stopping when I turned my face away. "Things have been absolutely crazy at work, and my phone died and, save it." "Megan," I said quietly, "I know you were at Canlis. I know you were with Jacob both on our anniversary and yesterday. That police officer had no right to embarrass me like that." She snapped, dropping the concerned act. "And it is not what you think. Jacob and I are just friends. He was comforting me because I was worried about you." I said nothing, just unlocked my phone and showed her the Instagram story, then her own text message. Her face hardened. "Fine. You want the truth." "Yes, Jacob and I have been seeing each other for about 3 months now. You and I. We were good, Gary. But let's be honest. You work all the time, you live in that tiny apartment, and your idea of spontaneity is ordering Thai food instead of Chinese. And Jacob is different." I asked, my voice strangely calm despite the storm inside me. "Jacob can give me things you cannot. Experiences, opportunities, a lifestyle I have always wanted. He is taking me to Paris next month." "Paris, Gary. When was the last time you even left Seattle?" I reached into the drawer of my bedside table where my mother had placed the contents of my jacket pockets and pulled out the small velvet box. I opened it, showing her the diamond ring inside. "I was going to propose. That is why I made the reservation at Canlis. That is where I was taking you on our anniversary." For a brief moment, something like regret flashed across her face. Then she laughed, a cold sound I had never heard from her before. "Oh, Gary, that is sweet. Really. But marriage? To a software engineer, with a Honda Civic and student loans, what kind of life would that be?" Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door and Jacob walked in. He looked out of place in the sterile hospital room, his designer suit, and perfectly styled hair at odds with the utilitarian surroundings. "Is everything okay in here?" he asked, his eyes darting from Megan to me and back again. "Everything is fine," Megan said. "I was just explaining things to Gary." Jacob stepped forward, maintaining a careful distance from my bed. "Look, man, I am sorry about your accident. That is rough. And I know this situation is not ideal, but these things happen." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. "I would like to help with your hospital bills. Whatever your insurance does not cover, I am happy to take care of. Let's say 20,000. Would that make things easier?" The audacity of it. The sheer arrogance of thinking he could buy his way out of the situation, that he could pay me off like some inconvenient business expense, ignited something in me. "Get out," I said, my voice low but steady. "Both of you, get out of my room. Get out of my life. Gary, do not be dramatic." Megan started, but I cut her off. 9 months, Megan. 9 months I gave you everything I had. I introduced you to my family. I was ready to spend my life with you. And you threw it all away for what, designer handbags and trips to Paris? I was lying here wondering what I did wrong, how I failed you. But now I see the problem was never me. Jacob took Megan's arm. Let's go. He is obviously not in a rational state right now. As they turned to leave, I called after them. I hope you enjoy Paris, Megan. I hope those experiences and opportunities are worth the price of your integrity. The door closed behind them, and I was alone with the steady beep of the heart monitor and the knowledge that something painful had just been excised from my life like a tumor I had not known was there. The physical recovery was the easy part. 6 weeks of rest physical therapy and follow-up appointments. My mother stayed with me for the first 2 weeks, cooking, cleaning, and fielding concerned calls from relatives and friends. My body healed according to the doctor's timeline, stitches out after 10 days, ribs, mending bruises fading from angry purple to yellowish green to nothing at all. The emotional recovery was a different matter entirely. Returning to my apartment after being discharged was like entering a museum of a former life. Megan's presence lingered everywhere. A forgotten scarf draped over a chair, her favorite coffee mug in the cabinet, a framed photo of us I had not yet had the heart to take down. The ring sat on my dresser, a constant reminder of my miscalculation. I could not bring myself to return it yet, though I knew I should. Some small, irrational part of me still half expected Megan to come to her senses, to show up at my door with tears and apologies. She never did. According to social media, which I still masochistically checked, despite Frank's warnings not to, she and Jacob were living their best life. Weekend trips to wine country, exclusive restaurant openings, parties on someone's yacht. Her life looked like a glossy magazine spread carefully curated to project success and happiness. Frank was my lifeline during those first few weeks. He came by after work most days, bringing food or just company. He helped me set up my laptop so I could work remotely once I felt up to it. He listened without judgment when I needed to vent, and knew when to change the subject when the anger and hurt became too much. "You will get through this," he assured me one evening, as we sat on my balcony watching the sunset over Elliott Bay. "It is going to suck for a while, but you will get through it." I joined a support group for accident survivors, more for my mother's peace of mind than my own. But to my surprise, I found comfort in those meetings. These were people who understood trauma, who did not offer platitudes or rush to find silver linings. They just listened and nodded and said, "That is really hard. I am sorry you are going through that." 3 months after the accident, on a rainy Tuesday that felt significant only to me, I decided to take the day off and visit the site of my crash. The damaged guardrail had long since been repaired, no physical evidence remaining of the moment my life had veered off course. As I stood there in the light drizzle cars whizzing past, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had survived this place, both the physical trauma and the emotional one that had accompanied it. On an impulse, I drove to the police station and asked for Officer Thomas. He remembered me immediately. "Gary, you are looking a lot better than the last time I saw you. How are you doing?" We went for coffee, and I thanked him properly for what he had done that day at Canlis. "Just doing my job," he said with a modest shrug. "Well, not really. That was definitely outside my job description, but it was the right thing to do." As we were leaving the coffee shop, a woman approached our table. She looked vaguely familiar, but I could not place her until she spoke. "You probably do not remember me, but I was your server at Canlis, the night of your anniversary, and then again when the officer came in." She smiled nervously. "I am Lisa. I just wanted to say I hope you are doing better." Lisa and I exchanged numbers that day as friends initially. She was working at Canlis to pay her way through nursing school. She was smart, funny, and refreshingly straightforward. When she talked about her career goals, her eyes lit up with a genuine passion that made me realize how performative Megan's enthusiasm had always been. We started meeting for coffee, then dinners, then weekend hikes in the mountains outside the city. There was no agenda, no timetable, just two people enjoying each other's company and building something based on honesty and mutual respect. 6 months after the accident, Frank forwarded me a news article Jacob's investment firm was under investigation for fraud. Assets were frozen, clients were suing, and Jacob's carefully constructed image of success was crumbling. 2 weeks later, another mutual friend reported that Megan had moved out of Jacob's luxury condo. Apparently, his credit cards had stopped working, and the trip to Paris had been canceled. A week after that, Megan texted me, "Can we talk?" I stared at those 3 words for a long time before deleting the message and blocking her number. Some doors are better left closed. My tech company promoted me to senior developer with a significant salary increase and the option to continue working remotely 2 days a week. I used part of my new income to take actual cooking classes, something I had always wanted to do but had put off. Lisa teased me about my newfound culinary skills, but happily served as my taste tester. 1 year to the day after the accident, Lisa and I went hiking at Mount Rainier. At the summit overlooking a vista of evergreens and distant snow-capped peaks, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed. "Penny for your thoughts," Lisa said, bumping her shoulder against mine. "I was just thinking that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can lead us exactly where we need to be," I replied. If I had not had that accident, if Megan had not shown her true colors, I might be trapped in a relationship with someone who did not really love me. I might never have met you." Lisa smiled and took my hand. "Well, then I guess I owe that jackknife truck a thank you note." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. The scars on my body had faded to thin white lines, barely visible unless you knew where to look. The scars on my heart had healed too, transformed into something useful: wisdom, resilience, the ability to recognize genuine connection when it appeared. Sometimes the worst crash in your life is not the one that breaks your bones, but the one that shows you who will stay by your side when you are broken. And sometimes that clarity is worth every scar. If you have ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted, completely share your story in the comments below. How did you recover? What helped you heal? And if you enjoyed this story of karma finally catching up with someone who deserved it, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories every week. Remember, sometimes losing someone toxic is not a loss at all. It is the universe making space for something better to come into your life. Thank you for listening. And I hope whatever challenges you are facing today lead you to where you are meant to be.